Henry Hasselbeck becomes the 10th commit for the 2024 recruiting class for Michigan State football. We also go through a few other recruiting notes like, hey, how did a rental car breakdown maybe stall some things during Michigan State's weekend? And then Chase Glasser of Spartans Illustrated joins the show back by popular demand. We talk MSU's run defense, the safety position, all sorts of stuff. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to today's show of Locked On Spartans. Hey, before going any further, this episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by FanDuel. Yes, get in on the game at FanDuel, FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 back in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Hey, gang, thank you so much for kicking off your holiday weekend with us. Yes, happy 4th of July week, everyone. Hope everyone stays safe out there. Hope everyone has a great time, and hope the weather holds up, too, wherever we are celebrating as well. It was one of my favorite holidays of the whole year. It's just time to kick back, relax, and enjoy that summer in Michigan or wherever you may be. So, yes, thank you so much for kicking it off here at Locked On Spartans. Let's wrap up everything that happened over the weekend here. Before the weekend even kicked off, Henry Hasselbeck, come on down. You are the 10th commit for the 2024 recruiting class. And if you know that last name, yeah, you already know what position he is. He is the son of Matt Hasselbeck, 3-time Pro Bowler for the Seattle Seahawks. He commits to Michigan State, the 6'3", 180-pound 3-star quarterback from the great state of Massachusetts. 24/7 Sports Composite, they have him as the number 67 ranked quarterback in the country. And the 24/7 Sports Composite, they take all the recruiting rankings from all the different sites, boil them all together, and that is where he's at right now, number 67. And God, I can't help but think of like a future Hasselbeck to Antonio Gates Jr. connection. I mean, if they ever connect on a pass at Spartan Stadium, I feel like an AARP magazine is going to fall in my lap and a social security check is just going to come straight to my door once that happens, because man, there's nothing that ages you quicker as a sports fan than seeing the kids of the athletes that dominated when you grow up start to actually play together. So yes, Hasselbeck to Gates. No, this ain't the early 2000s anymore, guys. We're getting old. We're getting really old. But hey, you know what? As long as those connections work, who cares how old we feel? Now, Hasselbeck picked Michigan State over Boston College. That is his father's alma mater. And also, hey, Michigan State, as you may or may not know, playing Boston College in 2024 and 25. And also, hey, yes, there is a Matt Hasselbeck MSU connection. Now, our Spartans, it's not a good series so far against Boston College. This is going back to the early 1900s, but MSU is 1-4-1 against Boston College. That one win in 1995 versus Matt Hasselbeck's Boston College team. Now, he was only a sophomore, and he threw one pass in the game. But, yeah, Michigan State, they actually beat Matt Hasselbeck way back in the day. So don't ever say you don't learn things on Locked On Spartans. How about that for a nice little fun fact for you? So along with Boston College, picked Michigan State over Pitt, Arizona, Georgia Tech, and Maryland lacrosse. That's right, not Maryland football, Maryland lacrosse. That's the fun thing about Henry Hasselbeck, is that he was committed to play at Maryland for lacrosse, like I've already said 3 times. If you don't know what that means, like, Maryland is a top 5 program in the nation at lacrosse. Like, this kid, as good as he is at football, just as good at lacrosse. But yes, he recently made the decision to go all in on college football, saying goodbye to that commitment to that great program down there. They have over with the Terrapins, and he's going all in for Michigan State. And it's actually a pretty quick process too, because, I mean, the decision just to play college football came very recently, but Michigan State offered Henry Hasselbeck in late May. He visits very quickly after, early on in June. His first time ever on Michigan State's campus. Loved it so much there that a few weeks later brought his mom there as well to show her around town, because Well, it certainly seemed like that things were ramping up very quickly. And hey, you know what? This is a great little tidbit from Spartans Illustrated. Ryan O'Blennis, awesome writer for Spartans Illustrated, dug this up when he did his piece on Henry Hasselbeck. During the official visit, got picked up from Detroit Airport from Jay Johnson, had all of his meals with Jay Johnson. But that airport thing is interesting because that's actually not common. It may seem common that, like, yeah, the offensive coordinator is going to go pick up the quarterback that they want, but usually that's left for like a recruiting staffer or something like that. But no, Jay Johnson went out of his way, headed over to sunny Romulus, Michigan to pick him up, and obviously had a great weekend. That's a two-way street. Henry loved his time at State, and Jay Johnson loved what he had to see from Henry Hasselbeck. And also, Noah Kim was his host during that visit as well, and in the Spartans Illustrated piece said that he was the, quote, perfect host. And me as the podcast host, I got to say that it's the perfect kind of parallel here because there's not a ton of highlight tape on Henry Hasselbeck out there on the internet, but what you're seeing, oh my God, this is kind of what you saw in Noah Kim's tape, honestly, out of high school. They almost have the same build. Again, Henry Hasselbeck, 6'3", 180 pounds. Right now, Noah Kim, 6'2", 185. These guys are both athletic. Yes, they are pocket passers, but Henry Hasselbeck, look, he wasn't a star in lacrosse for being slow and not agile. Like, he does use that maneuverability in and out of the pocket that, well, you would see on a lacrosse field. And also, what you do see from Noah Kim in his small sample size that he showed last year, if there's one thing we know about Noah Kim, is that he's an athlete and he can use those legs to his advantage to extend plays, even though, hey, he's a pocket passer, but those are functioning legs, and that's what we see on Henry Hasselbeck as well. Not a cannon for an arm, so to speak, I wouldn't say, but his arm isn't weak by any means. I mean, he does have some great downfield passes, very pinpoint, accurate passes on his tape. But yeah, I don't know. Without too much highlight tape out there, what I did see, it's like, well, I don't think it's lazy, but truly Noah Kim is kind of who I'm seeing it with here. So that's a nice little run for Jay Johnson here. Of course, Henry Hasselbeck in this class, Sam Levitt in the last class. That's the 4-star from the Pacific Northwest. And then Caton Hauser, you guys already know who he is as well. So the class right now, 10 commits. Yes, Spartan Nation, we finally did it. We got to double digits. And right now, as it stands, Rivals has Michigan State rated as the 50th team in the country with plenty of time until signing day. Now, other recruiting news and notes. This could have been a weekend where we saw Michigan State get up to 11 commits. Justin Denson was supposed to commit on Saturday. However, he tweeted out in the middle of the afternoon, my mom's rental car broke down and she cannot make it to the commitment ceremony. Now, of course, I don't think that's some excuse or anything like that. Like, I'm not going to shame the kid for wanting his own mother at the commitment ceremony, but wow, that's you don't see that one a lot. That's the best commitment postponement since back in the day. Jaden Mangum was going to announce his commitment, but he pushed it back. I think it was a few hours or maybe it was a day, and he tweeted out that it was like his internet wasn't working and his family's air conditioning wasn't working or something like that. So nothing's ever going to beat that for first place as far as commitment postponements. But man, yeah, the rental car situation could not work out. So, of course, it was rescheduled to July 4th. Hopefully it will be fireworks for Michigan State, if I could use that pun really quick right there. Right now, as it stands, from what we know, Michigan State is the team to beat for this 3-star safety out of Rhode Island. Now, that's not to say MSU is a clear-cut winner. Oklahoma is very hot on the trail as well. They want Justin Denson in their class. And honestly, this postponement of 3 more days, that only helps the Sooners. So we'll see how much distance Michigan State has already put between them and Oklahoma. But yeah, interesting. I really hope this rental car breakdown doesn't screw anything up here. But you know what? It's the world of recruiting. It would almost make too much sense here. Also, quick note, Tramar Harris, he was a visitor, I believe, in that second weekend of official visit season. He committed to Purdue over the Spartans. He was the 3-star wide receiver. Now, MSU receiver targets who have visited in June that are still on the board: 4-star Quasi Gilmer, 3-star Javarius Green, who he is committing on July 18th. Right now, it looks like North Carolina could be the team to beat there. And then the 4th receiver still on the board that officially visited in June. We're going to get an answer here soon. It's Nick Marsh, 4-star from River Rouge. I think the world of this kid. I've put all my emotional energy for this recruiting cycle in Nick Marsh, hopefully recommitting to Michigan State. July 7th is that commitment date. So hold your horses, everyone. That is the recruiting news and notes. And I'm sorry, one other tidbit on 24/7 Sports. Andrew Dennis, the offensive line commit, he earned his 4th star in 24/7 Sports' re-rankings. So good on you, Andrew Dennis. Another kid that had a background in another sport. He was a big hockey player, comes to Michigan State. So hey, we start the segment talking about a kid that is really good at lacrosse, but also football, and end it with the kid that was great at hockey and now, well, a 4-star offensive line prospect. We will be back with Chase Glasser here in a hot second. First, need to talk your ears off about FanDuel Sportsbook. Gang, take your first swing of betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. It is that easy. That's right. Just $20 and you will land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's right. You don't even have to hit this bet, and FanDuel is going to pay you out $200 in bonus bets. That is $200 you can spend betting everything from money line to over-under, who's going to hit the first home run, over-under on strikeouts. Go ahead and make those same-game parlays as well. Maximize those winnings and do it on an app that's safe, secure, super easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. I got paid instantly plenty of times over the weekend, actually. It was a good one for your boy at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. So thank you, FanDuel, for all those live golf betting odds as well. Sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockdown and get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockdown. It's FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Back by popular demand. No, we cannot go too long without having this guy on our show. It's Chase Glasser of Spartans Illustrated. This man does it all, breaks down the film at a very high-end level, but talks to us, kind of like respectfully, like we're 5 years old, which is what I need in my life sometimes. So really appreciate you coming back to the show here, Chase. How you been ever since we talked to you? You doing okay?
Never better. Never better.
There we go. And look, hey, since the last time we talked to you, Michigan State has added some good pieces in the transfer portal, and you did a piece, two guys at the same time, Jalen Sami or Marion Smith. Chase, I am so high on the run defense right now. We're at the part of the offseason where I'm starting to look at anything that could be somewhat of a positive for Michigan State, and I'm just letting it consume my life. I think this run defense can be in the upper third of the Big Ten Conference. Before we start going into Jalen Sami, the new addition, everything you wrote about him, should I be pumping the brakes, or just as a whole with that front six or front seven, however you want to look at it, do you think that this could be a strong run-stopping unit for Michigan State this year?
Absolutely. I think the the front two units of Michigan State's defense, it's going to be the strength of the team, I think. The defensive line, I think, has a chance to be one of the I'd say one of the best that we've seen in recent years, but I don't think that's necessarily true just because, and only because, there's been a pretty good run of excellent defensive linemen that have come through, even in the late Antonio era when stuff wasn't necessarily working. Those were still very stingy run defenses, and I think you can have every expectation of seeing that again. The front four going to be really good. Getting Darius Snow back at linebacker, such an athletic guy like that. Because when you're running a 4-2 and you're down a linebacker, you get worried if you don't have an athletic premium in the secondary, which we can touch on a little later, that you're going to get hit side to side. And I think you saw that a little bit with guys like maybe a Donovan Edwards, a Xavier Henderson, people like that, where it's Cal Holiday is a really good north and south gap filler. Not necessarily as good sideline to sideline. Same thing with a guy like Van Sumeren. And even when back there, he's trying to maintain the weight to play both a linebacker and a defensive end at different times. Having a guy like Snow at linebacker is going to be, I think, huge. Cal Halliday is going to be really, really solid. And that front four should be nasty. And you've got a lot of pieces to rotate through, so people are going to stay fresh. You could have every expectation of that front four being a nasty, nasty unit.
And they are going to be deep on the line. Let me knock on wood. I got to do this a lot on this podcast. We jinx a lot of stuff on here. And they were kind of deep, so to speak, last year. But boy, did they have to use every single ounce of that depth last year. But hey, let's just get to the depth of this defensive line. They added, some good, big run-stopping pieces. Okay, Dre Butler, Jared Jackson. But the most recent guy they added on the defensive line, Jalen Sami, a guy that was Pac-12 honorable mention. I think maybe even twice, if I'm not mistaken. But hey, when he steps off the plane to come to East Lansing, He's immediately the biggest guy in that room. You did some great film study on him. He's just more than just a big guy, right? Like he's got also a little bit of skill to him. Or what do you like to see in Jalen Sami's game and what he brings to Michigan State?
Yeah, I was really impressed. It's a little bit of a shame that he's a redshirt senior, just because he's coming into a position that is, I think, arguably the strongest on the team at defensive tackle. I mean, guys like Derek Harmon, Simeon Barrow, and then your second string, if you're looking at a Maverick Hansen, Dre Butler, guys like that. Not to mention the defensive ends, which he wouldn't play, but the interior of that defensive line is deep. But I think he has a chance to crack the rotation and contribute. I was really, really impressed with what I saw. I looked at his film primarily against Oregon State, USC, and Oregon for different reasons. USC is probably the most talented team they are the most talented team that they played. So you want to see him against that. Oregon State runs an offense that's very similar to what you're going to see out of teams like maybe not Wisconsin now with Phil Longo, but formerly Wisconsin, Illinois, Penn State, Michigan. They run a pretty comparable offense. And then Oregon, I think, had the best offensive line in the country last year. They only gave up 5 sacks, and were good on the ground too. So I wanted to see how he did against that, and he did well. I mean, he's a huge guy, so he's not necessarily the most nimble, but he plays with a lot of motor. He was tracking guys downfield. He was hopping over gaps, but really just it was the pad level and the ability to stay in a gap off the line. There was a play against Oregon where he just impacted a guard, moved him back half a step, and then played both sides of a gap. And that was really, really impressive to me. Now, the rest of his team was garbage, so I think it went for like 40 yards.
Sure,
it was not it was coming directly at him. He played both sides of a gap and forced a cutback. And there was time after time he was doing things like that. He was staying low, not getting moved. So maybe you look at him as someone who can rotate in, someone who's going to be, I think, very valuable in short yardage. He's not going to give you much of a pass rush. You might be able to maybe get him on a center, get him on a guard, and have him kind of constrict the pocket, but he's not going to give you a huge organic pass rush. But MSU's got a lot of really good defensive ends for that. So I really, really liked what I saw out of him. Defensive line and offensive line, it's the most fun film to watch for me. So it was a pleasure doing that. I really, really liked what I saw.
There you go. Mel Tucker just throwing you a bone, getting Jalen Sami. He says, hey, let's get Chase, a nice treat for the great work he's done at Spartans Illustrated so far. I'm glad you brought up the pass rush and everything, because everything we talk about Jalen Sami, run stopping. It's clearly his strength. But, hey, that's only half of what an offense can do. They could also pass the ball. So when he is on the field and the team does drop back to pass, does he offer any benefit to the team? Is it a thing where, like, okay, he's going to always absorb 2 blocks, so maybe that's going to free up something for the edge guy or maybe the blitzing linebacker, something like that? Like, even though stat-wise he isn't, like, racking up sacks by any mean or maybe even pass rushes, like, is he offering a benefit when it does come to pass defense, in your opinion?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at a lot of teams that run a 3-4, their nose tackle isn't getting a pass rush, right?
Never.
What they're doing is they're slowly walking an interior offensive lineman or 2 back into the pocket. They're keeping the pocket hemmed, and they're just keeping the pocket closed. He's absolutely going to be able to do that. And Michigan State runs pretty much exclusively 4-man fronts. So yeah, he'll be fine. There was a couple times where he was able to keep Caleb Williams hemmed in the pocket. And anytime you're doing that, you're doing something right, because he is slippery. So yeah, he's not going to be, I think, necessarily, a liability on passing downs, but he's not going to be somebody that you look at to get an organic pass rush.
Not going to be a guy you throw on those NASCAR packages, so to speak. Probably not coming up the middle with a 4.7 40, just blitz it. No, it's a nice little pickup, though, especially for a spring portal edition, because we've talked a lot about this. Like, you don't find a lot of greatness in the spring transfer portal, or more so just depth pieces. And yes, Jalen Sami, I don't think will quote unquote start.
Right.
But he's going to get so many reps where he might as well be like the 12th starter on the defense.
Yeah, if he can come in and give you 12 or 15 snaps a game, you're thrilled. And I think he definitely has the capability to do that. If he's not doing that, it's either because he's injured or because he's not able to pass one of the other excellent interior defensive linemen that they have. So
good problem to have over here in East Lansing.
Never can complain about depth.
No, of course. Lord knows, here in East Lansing, no, you're never going to complain about depth. All right, everyone, finish your drink. I'm about to say it again. 27 different starters on defense last year.
Right.
A lot of that was due to injury, some suspension. Yeah, that goes a long way here in East Lansing. You, of course, just like we said, you wrote about another guy in the same piece, Spartans Illustrated, are Marion Smith, young kid from Cincinnati. Yeah. Just strictly a depth piece. Do you think that he could, have some serious run coming up this fall, or just that was a guy where, look, I was thrilled to have him because, hey, again, depth goes a long way. Yeah. But I was wondering, I don't know how much we're going to see him this fall, but do you see anything on film that suggests otherwise?
No, not really.
Okay.
I think he'll be a depth piece. No, I think he's coming over as a freshman or a redshirt freshman. He has substantial eligibility.
Yeah.
He's a River Rouge kid. So you got to think he's probably going to be here for a while. So you don't know what he could come into down the road. Maybe he's on special teams a little bit this year. He's a terrible tackler, and that might be age, but
awesome,
ghastly in the open field tackling. The coverage snaps that I saw, he was able to stay in phase with guys, which is good. He generally seemed like he knew where he was supposed to be. He would just pretty much whiff on a lot of tackles. So you look for him to grow into it. I don't think it would be necessarily an absolute disaster should he have to play, because he got substantial run as a freshman at Cincinnati. So, I mean, it's you don't know necessarily what that's like with the level up in competition, but he'd probably be playable. You don't necessarily want him to see him on the field, but I think the safety group's going to be pretty solid.
And just like you said, I mean, plenty of eligibility left. I mean, hopefully maybe by 2024, 25, he really comes into it. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah, if you could take a flyer on a kid in secondary with 4 years of eligibility left,
absolutely.
I'm not going to cry about it for sure.
No.
I do want to go more to the safety position here. And this is something, we talk about, how positive we are in the offseason, that there's positivity and optimism in the air.
Yeah.
I do wonder, though, how much is this team going to lose without Xavier Henderson next year? Because, look, he's been on this team forever. However, the one knock against him, and this is why he didn't get drafted this year or last year when he said it was going to be his last year, is that athletically, he wasn't the most gifted guy on the field. However, you saw what the defense looked like when he was on the field versus when he wasn't, just that leadership, that stature that he brought to the defense. I guess, how do you slice this up as a true, pure ball-knowing X's and O's guy? Does the athleticism of the Malik Spencers or Jaden Manghams of the world make up for what Xavier Henderson, or is this simply wait and see? We'll find out.
It's interesting because I think one of the most important things that he brought is not really something that can be quantified in looking at.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was the spiritual leader of that defense, I think you could say. You look at he played with a lot of heart. He was tremendously physical. Not necessarily the most athletically gifted player, but that's not as big of a deal in college. And if you look at, like you said, what the defense looked like when he was out, I mean, rather than looking at that, look at what the defense looked like as soon as he came back in, because he comes back against Michigan, and I think J.J. McCarthy completed 11 or 12 passes. And when McCarthy did the most damage, it was either on some sort of waggle to a tight end, or it was when he was breaking the pocket and scrambling because nobody was open. So, right there, that tells you people are where they're supposed to be. And I think Henderson was really good at getting people organized, making sure people were where they were supposed to be. And that's so huge. And then you go out the next week and you play one of the best rushing attacks in the country in Illinois, and you beat them on their turf, right? And it's immediately the defense looks substantially better. So he's going to be a big loss. Now, the hope is that you take some of that spiritual or non-quantifiable organizational ability or leadership capability, and it's balanced out by the fact that you have a couple guys who are quite athletic, very physical, and got a fair amount of run this year. Well, so you're looking at Jaden Mangham and Dylan Tatum. Mangum got more run than Tatum did this year, but Tatum played against Penn State and did not look like he did not belong. He looked like he belonged there on the field. He was generally in position. He looked like he knew where he was supposed to be. Mangum played a fair amount, and he was quite physical. And so you hope that you have kind of that athletic level up, particularly with Tatum, and then that is able to help overcome whatever the drop-off is. It's hard to know exactly what you're going to look at as far as a drop-off, but you're going to find out really, really fast as far as what that offense looks like, or what that defense looks like against opposing offenses with Washington in week 3. So you won't have to wait long for an answer. It's going to be
right
to see how that's addressed.
Yeah, because like the thoughts started swirling in my head because we opened up the mailbag, lockedonspartans@gmail.com if you ever have a question. But someone wrote in, and I'm so sorry I don't have their name written down in front of me because, that's what a professional podcast host would do. And sometimes we come up short in that department. But their question was, true or false, we are going to be more talented at every position group except receiver and punter this year. And I was like going down the line, I was like, yeah, you can make an argument for this. This is definitely yes. And then I got the safety at the very end. It's like, wow. That is truly 50-50 for me. Like, can I just wait and see? Like, is that a lame answer? But I mean, you're kind of feeling the same way then.
Yeah, I mean, more talented. I think you could certainly make that argument for basically every position group. Now, what does that mean is hard to say because one of the great things about college football, the D'Antonio teams weren't tremendously talented. Now, he found guys who were probably high 4 or mid 4-star talent in the 2 and 3-star ranks, just because they were really good at identifying talent and developing people. But I don't think anyone can say that those teams were overwhelmingly talented. They certainly weren't more talented than the number 2 in the country Ohio State team that they beat in 2013. That I was told meant that they had no chance against Florida State. But
I'm not doing this.
Yeah, right. They played together extremely well. They had an identity. The scheme was good. That everyone knew their position, and even though they weren't the most talented, they were able to play at an extremely high level. So that's what you are you trading that for more talent? Hopefully not. Hopefully you keep the same knowledge, defensive scheme, and that kind of institutional progress when you get more talent. But then that gets into a discussion about defensive scheme, and that's about 3 podcasts worth of stuff right there.
Sure, right, of course.
But it's going to be really interesting. I think there's certainly an argument to be made that they're more talented. As far as what that means, we'll just have to wait and see.
Right on. And before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your week, of course, everyone is teaming to see what is going to come next for you with these film room breakdowns. Do you have anything on deck for us here in the near future at SpartansIllustrated.com, or what do you got for us here, Chase?
Yeah, I mean, the whole site, they're having good stuff all summer with official visits and everything going on that side. I'm going to have a piece out hopefully next week looking at Alante Brown and Terry Roberts, 2 of the more high-profile transfers that we've added. The much awaited for wide receiver transfer from Nebraska, and then a guy who I think could be pretty darn good in the secondary from Iowa. So excited to dive into that, and we'll be talking about that soon.
Yeah, we absolutely will drag you back on. I'm sorry to say, either you come on with no problems, or I'm just going to come to where you are, put a burlap sack over your head, and drag you on the show. So
always a pleasure.
We'll see how it unfolds. Stay tuned, everyone, to find out. But no, Chase, you're the man. Always appreciate you, and God, I know the listeners and viewers do. That's never, ever in doubt. So until next time, hey, man, enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks for everything you do.
You too. Absolutely. Take care.
Thanks. Dude, absolutely. And all the listeners, all the viewers, thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate you. You guys are the best. Now go enjoy your 4th of July. Stay hydrated out there. Carb up. Do what you got to do. Just don't be a knucklehead out there because, hey, over here, Locked on Spartans and Spartans Illustrated, we love you. All right, so take care of yourself. Go Great.